rabbi, and if he needed to handle the Torah, he would take David and Avi, they would sign with him, and then they would send the person for a bezin for 3. Or bigger cities would appoint 3 dayanim. Depends if they can afford to pay for 3 dayanim to full time.
הוא חייב להגיע, הוא לא חייב לעבור דיון שם. הוא יכול להגיד שמע, אני חייב להגיע.
חייב להגיע ולדון וכו' נכון.
הוא לא יכול להגיד אני פה, אבל אני לא רוצה את הדיינים האלה.
לא, impossible. Oh, but that doesn't exist today. Only in Crown Heights. It doesn't exist. It's a good question. I don't know. It's a good question. Rabbi Dietz. Yeah, and it's a good question. I don't know if because he built the community. So, but he wasn't picked. That he has the right to do. He has the right to say whatever he wants. Me and you and every other Jew has the right to say whatever we want. And it's purely within his right to do that. But if there's a din Torah, I doubt that he has the right to force a person to come to his bezdin. So that's the bottom line. If there's a bezdin kavua, when Mashiach will come, Mashiach, the first thing he will set is a bezdin. And the Bezdin will have the right. In the days of Golus, it says, Lo Yosef Shevet Yehuda Machokim Mebein Raglo, that there was a descendant of the king of David, called the Reish Galusa. He was not necessarily a big tzaddik and a big Talmid Chacham. He was a quasi-king of the Jewish people. And this went on for hundreds of years. And he would pick 1 or 2 or 3, and he would appoint them in the different cities. He would point them the Bezdin. Like the Gemara says, Reb Nachman married the daughter of the Reish Galusa. So the Reish Galusa set up Reb Nachman. Yeah. In the Gemara. So Reish Galusa says, oh, this is my son-in-law, it's very good. He's going to be the Dayan. Reb Nachman would force people to come to his Bezdin because the Reish Galusa gave him the power. So
Reish Galusa allowed to
pick a son-in-law? Yeah. If the son-in-law is worthy. Only if the son-in-law is worthy. Like Kushner. Yeah, exactly. Good example. No, he and his son and his grandson. This went on. This institution went on. So it has an interest. This whole thing has an interesting connection to this week's parsha. As I said, if there is no bezdin kavua, a person can say, "I want to go to the other bezdin." And the only way to break the stalemate is by having a Zeh Bar Le'echem, a Zeh Bar Le'echem, which is called, in short, the acronym is Zablon. That you pick one dayan, the other guy picks another dayan, and the 2 dayanim pick a 3rd dayan, and they handle the din Torah. Now, it has an interesting thing from this week's parsha. It says right in the beginning of this week's parsha, Eicha esa levadi torchachem masachem verivchem. How can I carry myself the Torah of Klal Yisrael? Rashi says, what happened? If there were 2 Jews that had it in Torah, and one guy saw he's losing, he said, I got more Eidim, I got more shtaras, they'll make the Bezdin crazy. Nothing changed. And if this guy saw he's mamish losing, he would say, Moisef ani aleichem oy dayanim, I'm making more dayanim. So the Ramban says, I don't know what Rashi is talking about. This sounds off the wall. Me and you come to the Torah, and I see I'm losing. I say, no, that can't happen. Avi's going to win. I want another dayanim. You're crazy. You can do such a thing? Can you imagine in court? Guys in front of the Supreme Court of the United States. If he... No. But here it says, he wants to add dayanim. How does that work? The Ramban answers, anytime there isn't a... there is, if a person, bottom line, if a person says, I want to go to a better bezdin, so we can, if a person says, I want in your Shalayim, there's a very big bezdin, or in Bavel, in Baghdad, there's a big bezdin. So a person could force his Baldin and say, no, I don't want to go to this little bezdin here. I want to go to the bezdin Yofa, to the better bezdin. A person could force his Baldin to say, okay, we're going to go to that place where there's the big Talmidei Chachamim. I want to go to an expert bezdin. There is certain limitations when you can force and when not.
In the middle of the news?
No, before. It seems like before.
Okay.
It seems like before, but here till the end. So the Ramban says quality and quantity equalize. Just like I could say to my Baldin, let's go to the other city. Over there, there is a Bezdin, which is a world-renowned expert on the copyright laws. And we have now this. I want to go to that Bezdin, right? Quality and quantity is the same thing. If you have more dayonim, you have more people, experts that are thinking through the issue, and it might help. So I have the right to say, you know what? I don't want to have I don't want to have 3 dayonim. I want to have 5 dayonim. I'll pick 2, you'll pick 2, and they'll pick another guy. Now, could be I'm doing it because I really want a better Bezdin. Unfortunately, like every good thing, it's a double-edged sword. Could be I'm doing it, why? Because I want to make you crazy. I want to make you crazy. I have a couple more dollars in my pocket. I could pay a little more for this whole procedure to go on a little longer. And I have a little more time in my hands, or I think I do. And I want to make you crazy. So I'm going to say, you see, I want a better Bezdin. You're going to pick 3? Let's pick a Bezdin of 5. So that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying. Even though it's a legitimate taina, it's a legitimate argument. If I really want a better Bezdin, I could say I want a more quality Bezdin, a more renowned Bezdin that everyone knows is an expert on this issue. Or I could say I want to have more judges on this panel. So it could be I mean it with good intentions, but obviously people will abuse rules, right? So Moshe Rabbeinu said that people were abusing this rule. When they realized that the other Baldin had the upper hand, they said, I want to have more dayonim on the Bezdin. But really what they were just trying to do is push the time. That was called torchachem. That's the shot this week's parsha. How can I do this? These people are making me crazy. This atirche. This is called atirche. It's called atirche because people are making Moshe Rabbeinu crazy for no reason.
But he learned that from his father, from Yitzchak.
Also, he learned how to make a whole system.
Yeah.
Okay. But from this pasuk, we learn if no one can ever say such a thing. How was it atirche? Moshe Rabbeinu said, "Get out of here. Bezdin is 3. Don't bother me. Why is that a bother?" Oh, but the answer is that if the person could have that argument, he could say it. Now, some people will say it for legitimate reasons, but some people are going to say it not for legitimate reasons. So that's a tircha. From this pasuk and this Rashi in the Ramban is paskin the din of Shulchan Aruch. That's the din of Shulchan Aruch. Look here at the first piece here. Pasuk is Eich Esel Avadi Tarchachim. So again, the question is, someone got an azmonah to the Torah, they have to come. So the answer is like this. Look at Chayshemish with Simon Yud Gimel Tzip Aleph. It says like this. One person said, I found a dayan. Amar Baldin and the other party said, no, you found a dayan. I found a different dayan. Pliny Yodanli. Leishnei the dayonim sheberu ze echad ze echad. Boirin olhem dayan shlishi. So I pick a dayan, you pick a dayan, and the 2 people pick a third dayan. The third dayan, I don't have to agree. You don't have to agree. I get to pick one, you get to pick one. They pick the third one. We have no opinion about the third one. These 3 judges, don't in my say, it's a din lamite. Afilo ya echad shebir baldi. Chochem gadol v'samach ini yochel lokik of baldin shadin eitzel zeh. Gam hu ber mish yirtzen. If I can't say I picked the best dayan in the world, who you got? Who did you pick? Shoemaker. If he's legit, he could pick him. Because Chazal said, because each one picked a dayan, so then we know that the people will listen to them. The person that I picked is going to try to find my schus, chas v'sholom, that he's going to be my agent. Chas v'sholom, chas v'chalila. Unfortunately, that could happen too, but that's not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that I pick a dayan, and the guy might be a person that I believe is gonna understand me.
You can talk to him before.
That's questionable. If I can talk to him before,
to find out what
it's questionable. If I can't talk to him before.
Why?
I cannot talk to him before.
Before you choose him as a dayan.
I can talk to him about
This case.
if he likes the eggs and cheese that
לא יכול לדבר איתו על
not
הקייס?
the case
Can
itself.
ask him and find out where he's what he's
You can ask him theoretical
דיין זה לא
questions.
כמו עורך דין במשפט רגיל.
לא, דיין זה דיין. אסור לדבר איתו.
זה כמו שופט,
זה שופט.
זה שופט, זה
שופט,
לא עורך
כן.
דין.
You're not allowed to do that. Not allowed to do
Judge,
that.
not allowed.
People do that.
People do it.
Oh yeah, people do that. But not allowed to do that.
Hey, under the table.
The dayan isn't allowed to talk to the...
No,
The Benjamin
once they
doctor.
start in Torah,
No,
and
before.
not allowed to.
Yeah, the Benjamin.
Gimel Shemea Taina Shnayim, and the middle dayan hears all arguments. So place emes, and the emes comes out. If the two people are arguing and they pick, I pick one and he picked one, but they can't pick a third one. Manhigyo here Yitalam Gimel. So the leaders of the city will pick a third dayan. Manhigim. There's no leaders in the city, which unfortunately that can happen in many places. So then, any person can go to 3 people, send them Azmona. And then he has to come, unless he counter Azmona. If one of the sides picks a dayan which is not worthy to be a dayan, he doesn't know Choshen Mishpat. He's a very nice guy, and he goes to Daf Yom Mishir every morning, but he doesn't know Choshen Mishpat. So then you could force the person to go to a regular bezdin. Or she should pick a good dayan. If the 2 dayanim figured out the answer, some say they don't have to have a third one. If one person says, I want two dayanim, and you're going to pick 2 dayanim. And there should be a 5th. The cold man and what's the source for this? Rambam b'pirush ala Torah. Unbelievable. And what's the source of the Rambam? Rashi. It's a very interesting thing. And this is the halacha Shulchan Aruch. That if we can't agree upon a bezdin, I pick a dayan, he picks a dayan, and they pick a third dayan, and these 3 become the judges. Alternatively, I could scream and say, I want to have a better bezdin, and quality and quantity are the same. So therefore, I could say, I'm going to pick 2, and you're going to pick 2, and then we're going to have a 5th.
2 or 3 now.
Yeah, there has to be a majority always. There always has to be a majority. Okay, next question. Someone called me up this week, and he said that they have a trefa sink in the house, and they have a new shiksa. This question is like a very, very common question. And the shiksa, filled up the sink with all the fleishige dishes, put in hot water and soap, and washed all the dishes. Boiling hot water in the trefa sink. So what should he do now? So it's Shaykh's last week's parsha, which is all the dinim of kosher kalim is learned from last week's parsha, which is called Davar Asher Yovev Eish, Navida B'Eish. That whatever amount of heat is applied to bring the taste of something into the walls of the dishes, that amount of heat has to be applied to take it out, to expunge it. When it goes in and out, it's in the same way. If a Yovev Eish went in through fire, Navida B'Eish is to go out through fire. So the bottom line is, I told him that there's no question about his dishes, that they're kosher, and he doesn't have to kasher them. Number 1, our sages say that the tam that goes into the walls of the pot after 24 hours become pogum. It has a foul taste. So you have to use milchik dishes for milchik and fleishik for fleishik. But the fact is that Chazal say that after 24 hours, the taste that's in the walls of the pot or the walls of the dishes are foul. It's called noisen tam of gam. The tam that it gives out is foul taste. So therefore, can't make the food non-kosher. It can't make the dishes non-kosher. Number 2, the kosher or not kosher has to go in only through hot water. If it's cold water, the heat is the one that brings the taste of the food into the walls of the pot. Takes it in. Yovev Eish, Navida B'Eish. Fire brings it in. Fire brings it out. Cold water does not bring anything in or out, unless it sits there for kovish. It sits there for 24 hours or 12 hours overnight or whatever. But if you just have something cold, if you have something cold sitting here, so you just wipe it off and make sure it's clean. But as long as it's clean, it's clean. Nothing goes into the walls of the pot or the plate or the counter or the sink and so on if it's cold. Now, how cold is cold and how hot is hot? So just say Yatzilat, but your hand has to get burned from the heat. Most shiksus are not interested in burning their hand while they're washing your dishes. Just because you're giving them $11.50 an hour, they're not willing to burn their hands. So you should have clean dishes. If there's a little bit of film of soap on the dishes, they don't care. They're not burning their fingers for you. So the water was definitely not Yatzilat. And number 3 is that there's a lot of soap here. And the soap, even if there was hot water, the soap would make that the taste that goes into the water would become pogroms, therefore it's kosher.
But after the hot water, you put cold water.
That's for sure is good. It's gevaldik, should gevaldik. That's really good.
What if it's dishwasher?
Dishwasher. Let's talk another time about dishwasher. Now, there are people that use dishwashers and rely on the...
Work for both.
Right. We shouldn't do that. Because dishwashers don't have fingers, and dishwashers, they try, the heat goes, so it's a question how hot the water gets. It's considered a klirisha, not a klirisha. Definitely a Yiddish Shemaim should not use a dishwasher for more.
Because that's a lahaktila. This is a big deal.
That's exactly.
You can't compare them.
Exactly. He asked me what to do with lachatchila. I'm telling him lachatchila, the dishwasher should be either flesh or milk. Third question. I'm using this third question even though it's not directly in this week's parsha, it's in the following parsha, but I'm doing it today because we said in the 3 weeks we'll learn something that's connected to the Beis HaMikdash. The funny thing is that the last week we did something that was connected to a question that was raised by Rabbi Getz, the first rabbi of the Koisel Amarovi, and today's question will have connected to an article that I once read by Rabbi Rabinowitz, the current rabbi of the Koisel Amarovi. So let me start at this. There was a very choshev Talmid Chochem. To say Talmid Chochem was an understatement. He was Isha Shkoilis. He was unbelievable. He was a brilliant, a Jewish Einstein, a Torah Einstein. His name was Menachem Mendel Kasher. Menachem Mendel Kasher was originally a Ger Chosed. He became a big Zionist. But he was one of the exceptional Talmidei Chacham of this generation. He wrote a set of Sfarim called Torah Shleima, which is the Chumash, Torah Shebiksav, and on the bottom he brings all the Madrash Chazal from the Gemara, every single Medrash of the Sam. Tosef, that's the Fries, from Mechilta, obviously, but some Medrash that's somewhere in Oxford in a British museum, every part of Torah Shebapeh, so Torah Shebiksav, the Torah Shebapeh, and at the bottom his commentary. The original set had 50 volumes, and then it was his grandchildren consolidated. You can buy it today as a set. I think it's I have it at home. I think it's 14 volumes. Each one is like a telephone book. And in the back of every parsha, he has all kinds of issues and things that he wrote. He was a prolific writer, and he had a brain as a computer. It was just unbelievable. This guy was, as I said, one of the exceptional Talmidei Chachamim of this generation. He's not known as a poisson. He wasn't a poisson.
Is he still alive?
No. But he was most definitely one of the most brilliant minds in this generation. So, in one of his pamphlets that he's printed in the back of one of the parshas, he writes a little piece. He was asked a question. The question was that there was a man that was never blind, and he had a dog. There are people that have a dog. Blind people at one time have a dog who's trained. The dog takes them everywhere. The dog knows where they need to go. Their life is dependent on the dog. The dog takes them. They go around with the dog. The dog is trained. These are very expensive dogs, and this dog knows everything. This dog is the eyes of the blind man. Now, this man wants to go to shul. shul, they're not interested, they should come in with the dog. So his question is he allowed to come to shul with his dog? You would say, just before I continue, so let him leave his dog outside in Avenue J, tie him to the pole. So, or hold it, the whole thing. So it's not so simple.
I think dogs are like people.
So, right. The question is, have you seen them in shul? So, probably, number one, the blind man he comes to shul, he's in the hallway. Hello! Hello! That's number one. Number two, these dogs are not puppies that you pick up free of charge from the animal shelter. You're not going to Petco and buy 12 for $59. Highly trained and highly expensive. And this dog knows his whole life. He's not leaving the dog out here on Avenue J. No way. He needs to have his dog with him. He doesn't want to lose his dog. He wants to go to shul. He's a frumid. So he wanted to know if he's allowed to take the dog into the shul. The Menachem Mendel Kasher writes, definitely not. Why? It's a familiar pasuk in the Torah, in Devarim. It says, Lo yisavi esnan zoino mechir kelav beis Hashem alekecha. It says that if a zoina gets a gift, she's not allowed to bring this gift. She gets a sheep. Someone sleeps with her, and she says, "Okay, what are you going to give me?" So he says, "I have my credit card." She says, "I don't have a thing to process your credit card. What are you going to give me?" So he says, "I have a sheep." Oh, fine, no problem. Just like your story with Yehuda. He says, the sheep. She takes the sheep. Now she wants to bring the sheep to the Beis Hamikdash. I say, no. This sheep cannot be brought to the Beis Hamikdash. Same thing, Mechir Kelev. There's a guy, my neighbor has a dog. Such a sweet dog. So I say, you know what? You want to give me the dog? He said, what are you going to give me for the dog? I said, I'll give you a sheep. So we make a trade, Chalipin, Mechir Kelev. I get the dog, he gets the sheep. That sheep cannot be brought as a korban to the Beis Hamikdash. So first time Menachem Mendel Kasher said, well, maybe that's a Gzeres HaKosov. That's what Abisha says. Well, you can't learn. The Sifrei says that I would think from here that you're not allowed to bring a dog into the Beis Hamikdash. Kamash Malon, that only we're talking about Zviche. We're only talking about bringing to slaughter, which is for a korban, which is the sheep instead of the dog. But the Sifrei says, but to bring a dog in the that's not what we're talking about. So it sounds like from the Sifrei that you're allowed to bring the dog into the Beis Hamikdash. Just if you sold your dog and you got a trade, you got a sheep, so for that sheep you can't bring a Beis Hamikdash. But he says no, because you look in the Chinuch and the Kliyokor, they say what's so special about these two things? Because the Zoyna says the Kliyokor and the dog have two things in common. Number one, Azus Metzach, a chutzpah. For nothing, they're going to sell themselves. And number two, that they'll sleep with anyone. So therefore, these two things are not roy to go in the Beis Hamikdash. So in Madach Mechir Kelev, it's a Kal V'chomer. The reason why you're not allowed to bring the sheep that comes from the Kelev is because the Kelev, he'll sell himself for nothing. No loyalty. Even though we say the dogs are very loyal. Okay. The Kliyoka didn't own a dog. So, and there's already a pshat for this. The dogs are very loyal, but wait till someone else finds a dog and offers the dog a little better meal, then you'll see how loyal the dog is. That's the way the Veld says. But, okay, your question is a question, but that's what the Kliyoka says. And that's what the Chinuch says. So it says in Menachem Mendel Kasher, if you're not allowed to bring the sheep that came because of the dog, so the dog, you're not allowed to bring a dog into the Beis Hamikdash. Also. So, the Rebbe saw the Rebbe was very involved in this guy. This was mamish, the Rebbe's cup of tea, this type of people. Kol HaTorah Kula, this guy knew all the Rogatch of it, he knew everything. This guy was a computer. The Oitza Chochma didn't get yet to the level of what this guy had in his head. This guy was unbelievable. So this was like the type of people that Rebbe, the Rebbe used to write him commentaries on his, all the time, the early years. Hey, he wrote this, I had a little comment on this, he missed out here, there. So the Rebbe says, writes him a letter. I saw your latest. Huh?
Did Kasher visit the Rebbe?
Yeah, sure. Very close to the Rebbe. So the Rebbe writes to him, I saw your latest Chelik Tezvav and Torah Shlema. And he's in the back, you asked the Rebbe, first of all, you failed to mention there's This question was already brought to the Moshe Feinstein. Igros Moshe was just published. It was back then. We're talking about me and you, obviously, we'll bring from the Igros Moshe. But this was the first Chuvas, the first Chelik that was published. It was just then published. The Rebbe says, the Moshe Feinstein was asked the same question by the Pinchas Teitz and Elizabeth. So you failed to bring... the Rebbe was not only familiar with anything that was being printed, but the Rebbe never liked to invent the wheel. So if someone already said it, say it over b'shem oimer. You know, Moshe Feinstein, she already wrote about it. So the Rebbe says, so the Moshe Feinstein came out with the opposite conclusion. He says that there's a Gemara that says in the Yerushalmi, and the Rabbi said to the person in charge of the shul that if you see a Talmid Chacham comes, it's full of Torah, and he's coming he's tired from the road, allow him to go into the Beis HaKnesses, the Beis HaMedrash, allow him to go in, him and his donkey, to rest. Him and his food and his donkey. So the Moshe Feinstein says a whole tshuva that this is brought la'aloch in Shulchan Aruch in Kufna Aleph that the Talmidei Chachamim are allowed to eat even though the Beis Hamikdash you have to have kavod for the Beis Hamikdash, and there is opinions that the kavod of the Beis Hamikdash is the reise also in a shul, and you have to have kavod for a Beis HaKnesses just like you have kavod for the Beis Hamikdash. Right? The Mikdash Ma'at, most opinions hold it's the Rabbanon. Really, Beis HaMikdash. Sha'at, the kavod is the Rabbanon. But there is a sheet of the Yereim, Mitzvah Tov Test, that says that the kavod for shul is midday reise. It's a Torah law. He said, but the Moshe finds an interesting thing. Even though the Shulchan Aruch brings this din, it says only medoich. You have no choice with the Talmidei Chachamim. But he says we see that today the minhag Chassidim is that they have in the shuls they have a kiddush from yard side, breakfast, and so it became acceptable. So we see that it can't be that it's just a doich. We see that l'chatchila that's what all the Chassidim are doing. We're having breakfast here, and even though this shul, I must say, when we got this building, we made it special tonight. But all shuls relied on the Stama. When they got the shul, it was a condition, it was a tanai that it would be mutter to eat there. So therefore, it's also mutter to bring in an animal. I said to Moshe, what's the difference between a chamoid and a kelov? What's the difference between a donkey or a dog? If you're allowed to bring in an animal, you're allowed to bring in an animal. However, that's only, he says, by shuls that are chutz la'aretz, where you can make a condition when you build a shul and say that you're allowed, the Talmidei Chacham are allowed to eat here. So if they're allowed to eat, they're allowed to bring in their donkey too. However, in Eretz Yisrael, in the shuls or in the place in the Beis HaMikdash, he says, I'm not sure. It's Archim. That's the maybe yeah, maybe not. He says it leaves it. So the Rebbe says to Menachem Mendel Kasher that this is your opinion, but he says the Rebbe says I think that the Igros Moshe is right. Moshe is right, and you're going to tell me that a dog is worse. You're going to tell me that a dog is worse. So the Rebbe says, well, there's a few things I tell you about that. Number one, there's a Tosefta. A Tosefta in Kalim. A Tosefta in Kalim. And it's like a by-the-way comment. Rabbi Shimon HaTzanua said that I walked into the Beis HaMikdash, the place between the Mizbeach and the Ulam, and I didn't do Kiddush Yadayim B'Raglayim. I didn't wash my hands and my feet. So Rebbe Lezer says, that's impossible. He said, but I was in the Beis HaMikdash, I did that. So Rebbe Lezer got really upset at him. He said, you, Kalbe shel Kohen Gadol chaviv heimecha. The Kohen Gadol's poodle is more chashiv than you. And a poodle, a dog. The Kohen Gadol's dog is more chashiv than you. And I would say, I wouldn't take that as a compliment if someone said that to me. And
מדברים על חיית מחמד, שאתה מגדל, אבל פה מדובר על חיית מחיה, זה משהו אחר לגמרי.
זה מה שמשה חושב גם, שאולי זה אחר.
זה מחיה, זה בשביל החיים שלו, הוא כלב אבל זה לא יכול לחיות, הוא לא יכול לזוז. פה מדברים על חיית מחמד שאתה מגדל בבית, חמור או כלב או חתול או משהו אחר לגמרי, זה לא...
זה עוד סברה שמשה אומר, אבל הוא לא, אבל זה סברה. אין ראייה גמורה לזה. זה סברה טובה. הסיפור הזה עם החמור, שהתלמיד חכם שבדוחק הוא בא בדרך, זה מפורש בתלמוד, אבל זה בדוחק, זה לא לכתחילה. So the Rebbe says that over there they had a discussion. He says, "Oh, the dog of the Kohen Gadol is chavim in Mecca is more important than you." And you know what? If the Kohen Gadol himself didn't wash his yadayim v'raglayim and he walked past the mizbeach, that place is so holy that they would hit his head until his brains were splattering on the ground. In other words, you're lucky they didn't catch you. But the holiness of the Beis Hamikdash past the mizbeach is so important that a Kohen Gadol himself could not walk there, and he would be punished for walking there without washing his hands and feet. And if the Kohen Gadol would walk there, would be punished. And you don't even come to the toes of the Kohen Gadol. You're not even as good as the poodle of the Kohen Gadol. So who are you to say? That's the Tosefta and Kalim. It's like a by the way mention. So the Rebbe says, but the Kohen Gadol was always hanging out in the Beis Hamikdash. Where was his dog hanging out? The Rebbe sort of makes light of it. But then the Rebbe says, I have a raya. I have really another raya. I have a raya against you. Because the Gemara says in Yuma Daf Chaf Aleph that in the first Beis Hamikdash there was a miracle that the Yidden used to bring the fire and the wood on the Mizbeach, and there used to be a fire that came down from heaven. It was an Eish Min HaShamayim, but a Vutza Aryeh. It was in the image of a lion, and it looked like there was a lion that was eating up, like with fire. It looked like a lion. Huh?
Crouching.
Right. Revutza, crouching. And it looked like it was eating up the Karbanos. It was a miracle. The Gemara says that the second Beis Hamikdash was the same miracle, but less. It was a Revutza Kekelev. It was like in the image of a dog. So the Rebbe says, you might say, Revutza Ka'arya means it was more comfortable. Because a lion sits like, besides when it's attacking. A dog is always moving around. But that's not the pshat, because Rashi says that it was the image of a lion and the image of a dog. If it was also to bring a dog into the Beis Hamikdash, how come the Eibush would make such a miracle? It was a miracle. It was less. The first Beis Hamikdash was the image of a lion. That was the image of a dog. How could the Eibush make such a miracle? So the Rebbe says, the raya that you bring from the Sifrei, it was only a havamin in the Sifrei, and you can't bring Paskan halachas from the Yokor. And the Rebbe says, it seems to me abundantly clear that a blind man who needs a dog is permissible, is allowed to go to shul with the dog. Lichatchila, no questions. He's allowed to go into the shul with the dog. It's 100% mutter. Not in the hallway, into the shul. The Rebbe is not going into the nitty-gritties. In the Tshuva Reb Moshe, he says, he would suggest that the blind man should sit by the entrance or somewhere in the side, because otherwise it will disturb him. Because the dog is a living creature, so so try not to disturb people. Try to sit a little bit to the side. You sit right in the middle with your dog. It's a little overwhelming for the eye. Not the side. Sit a little on the side. You're in the shul.
In the shul where I daven, the dog was under the table, totally out of the way, and a Reb Biederman.
Right. It's interesting that the Rebbe says to Rav Kasher, "I will bring your raya to your psak, but I disagree with you." The Rebbe says the Shulchan Aruch Simkuf Nun Gimel Tzif Chaf Aleph, it says, "Also lasas me'esnen zoinen oy mechir kelev dover shel mitzvah kegoin beis hakneses sefer Torah." Even today, if a woman who's a zoina comes to the shul and she brings a gift, and not allowed to take it from her, if that's what she got paid for her services. Shulchan Aruch says le'mikre zoina ela isur erva lo ela pnuyis mutar l'kabel man. If she is a pnuya, she's not a married woman, and she does it for a living, so it's not a good idea. But you're allowed to take from her money or gift is not a problem. Only if she's an Isur Erva, even for the shul, right? But if she's an Isur Erva, that she's sleeping with people that she's not allowed to sleep with, so if she brings a gift to the Beis HaKnesses, if they know that this gift was really given to her as a payment for her services, it's also to take it to build a shul or to buy a Sefer Torah. You could tell her to bring it to Yeshiva Flatbush, to the library. You can do all kinds of nice things with it. But not because why? Because we see from here that the shul is similar as a mikdash ma'at, as a miniature Beis HaMikdash. So it sounds like.
How can you give it to a yeshiva though? I would think a yeshiva is even more cut off.
No, I meant to say to build a new gym.
Oh, okay.
That's what I meant.
Yeah,
That's what I meant. Sports complex. Not for the Beis Medrash. Not for the Beis Medrash. No, I meant to say.
Yeah.
The shul is the shul.
Yeah.
So they come here. What are we going to do with the money? To fix the walls, the chandeliers, the windows, the air conditioning. You can't. It's also. Except for Torah, you can't.
For the food.
For the food to breakfast, maybe. Yeah. Okay, I guess we can keep the money for the food and breakfast.
At least somebody gonna pay for that.
Exactly. Yeah, listen, the Zoyna has a lot of extra money. People that are working hard to make an honest living don't have all that extra cash. Anyway, it's not talking about cash. We're talking about physical gifts that she gets.
What about cash?
Shulchan Aruch doesn't talk about that.
So that's not a problem?
Could be cash is not a problem because cash gets mixed in. Right, cash is cash. Cash is not. Money is not. It's not like
She gets the payment.
But that payment gets a dollar.
money that she has.
Yeah, she has other money too. It goes into the account. She's swiping her credit card. Now what? The
She
dollar.
might be using
That dollar is.
same money. We're not concerned about
we're not concerned about that. But if it's an actual thing that she got, so the Rebbe says we see from here that there is a thing that in a shul, just like the Torah says, like by the Beis HaMikdash, that you're not allowed to take an esnan zoin and a mechir kelev. The same thing applies to a shul. That's a din. Also, masas esnan zoin and a mechir kelev davish mitzvah Beis HaKnesset. But anyway, final analysis, the Rebbe says that no, in his opinion, it's 100% the Rebbe brings. That is brought in the end of Siman Peiches. Now the Rebbe brings it from the Ramah that the women had a minhag that in the days of Nidus that they don't come to the shul. I don't think today there's such a minhag. It used to be such a minhag. Maybe still, and it's hard to know what more
They come, but they don't kiss a Sefer Torah.
yeah, it's brought that they shouldn't even come. But okay, maybe they don't
For
come.
what reason? For what reason?
That was a minhag of women. I don't know, special honor to the Sefer Torah, to the Beis HaMikdash, that they'll only come in when they're not in the days of their nidus. So, however, what happens when it's the Yom Neiron? It's the Yom Neiron. Everyone's going to shul. She's going to go home. But Yantis, I can ask her, "Hey, Pashi, what happened? You didn't come to shul?" What is she going to say? It was my third day of my cycle. Even if she doesn't say that. It's Tzavon Godel.
It's appropriate.
They're very upset. They can't go to shul, or the woman is her son is a chassan. Says Ramah, and he's getting aliyah Shabbos chassan. So she doesn't show up. Someone says, Zelda, what happened? You didn't come for your son's. It's a Tzavon Godel. It's very upsetting to the woman. So therefore. The Alter Rebbe says that even the women that keep that minhag should, if it's a special time like the Yom Neiroim or an event, children are being honored in the Beis HaKnesset, Aliyah for son to Chosn, then she should come anyway, even though she usually keeps the minhag. But we see that there's a thing that a Jew should say. Here you're telling me the blind man should never come to shul. It's a Tzavon Gadol. Very upsetting. He's a religious Jew, and it's a mitzvah to go daven with a minyan. It's a mitzvah to daven. The Rebbe brings again. The Rebbe finds from like under the in Shulchan Aruch is it's like one of those twilight simonim, like between the end of between Hilchas Shabbos and Hilchas Pesach. So there's this the end of Hilchas Eruvei Tchumen. So the Magen Avraham brings that the Maril said that you're not allowed to make an Eid of Tchumen just because you want to daven with a minyan. And the Magen Avraham says you are allowed to. Davening with a minyan is a mitzvah. Davening with a minyan is a mitzvah. So you're allowed to make an Eid of Tchumen in order to be able to walk an extra distance of Shabbos. The person's living out in the sticks. and he can't walk more than 2,000 amma. But if you make an eruv tchumen, he'll be able to walk more, and he'll get to a town where there's a shul. He's allowed to do it because he wants to daven with a minion. So it's a mitzvah to daven with a minion. So, and the bottom line is that the Rebbe holds that it's muter gomul. Time is short, so I will not read the inside. Huh?
Did he answer that?
No, we don't. Because we don't have it. League is answering back. As I said, I did. By the way, I make these copies. If you don't want to take it home, you can leave it here. We'll leave it in Sheamus. They're not that much. Doesn't take up that much space. If you want to take it home, I'm putting it for your. I'm printing it out for your benefit. I'd like to conclude with an akuda. In the Likutei Torah it says that every Jewish heart is like a mizbeach. Every Jewish heart is like a mizbeach. And afal pisha mitzvah mitzvah lahavim in a head. The Gemara says even though there was a miracle that the fire came down from heaven, but there's a mitzvah that a person should chop the wood and bring it onto the mizbeach and make a fire. Now the Rebbe says, what does that mean in Avodas Hashem? That even though God brings fire into the heart of a yid, even if I don't prepare myself, the Eibishter gives a service, but it's a mitzvah to bring my own. I should work on it to make it special. I'm not in the mood to come and base Menachem Mendel this morning, but I came anyway to learn Sunday morning in the 3 weeks. So that's adding fire to my own mizbeach. In Midah Keneged Midah, the Eibishter miraculously adds a ton of fire to the fire that I bring. So I would say like this: the first Beis HaMikdash. We're not learning a Maimon, so we can say a pshat. The first Beis HaMikdash, Arya, we know from the Likutei Torah, there's Oisis and Iya. Arya is the letters of Iya to see. The first Beis HaMikdash, the Kedusha was more intense. So over there, when a Jew brought himself close to the Eibishter, the fire that came from heaven was so intense, and he saw God. And the love was so intense, because when you see it, you can't go away from it. It's unbelievable. You see God, you're looking him in the eye. And the Eibishter looks you in the eye, the love is so intense. It's Arya. The second Beis HaMikdash, it was less intense. It was Kelev. What did Chazal say about Kelev? Kulei Leiv. It's all about the heart. And the Iya is the brain. The eyes are connected to the brain. Kelev is Kulei Leiv. It's in the heart. So in the first Beis HaMikdash, they served the Eibishter on a higher level. It was at a higher level. And the second Beis HaMikdash, it was in a little bit of a lower level. It was like Kelev, Kulei Leiv. It was their heart was on fire. Maybe not their brain was on fire, that they could see it with the eyes, but their heart was on fire. So the Eibishter paid them back. Midah Keneged Midah. In the first Beis HaMikdash, he gave them a fire like a lion, which is powerful. He's Gabakari, the king of the animals. And he's a moichin, he can see. The second Beis HaMikdash was the lowest level of avodah. It was also strong avodah. It was Kelev, Kulei Leiv. Their whole heart was on fire. Which fire? A fire to the Eibishter. The Eibishter gave them a fire that was like a Kelev.
I think Kelev has to have special midah because in the 10 Makot Mitzrayim,
Right.
That's Kelev Leshono.
Right, exactly.
Kelev was so quiet, didn't say anything.
They have a schools.
It's so bad.
The third Beis HaMikdash, the question is, what is it going to be? Which one is it going to be? Is it going to be like an Ari, or is it going to be like a Kelev? I would say like this, that there probably is a mile in each one. There's probably a mile in each one. The Gemara says about another machloikis, which one, what's going to be in the third Beis HaMikdash? This one or this one? The Gemara says, Leheve Kedein v'Kedein. This third Beis HaMikdash will have both miles put together. Because the third Beis HaMikdash is going to be bigger than the two put together. So it's going to have both miles together. So Avada and Avada, the Mashiach will come. And the third Beis HaMikdash, the fire that's going to be brought, is going to have both miles. It'll have the mile of a fire coming down like a lion, and the mile of a fire coming down like a Kelev. The Eibishter should help in the last few minutes of Golus that the Eibishter should put in a strong fire in our heart, a fire in Avodas Hashem, a fire like the Ari. We should be like a lion, which is Nizgaber, which has the strength, and also should be like a Kelev, which is Kulei Leiv. Our heart should be dedicated to Avodas Hashem. And with this, the Eibishter should finally should be the last few minutes of Golus, and then there should be the Gula Mitzvah Shlema. Mashiach Tzidkenu, we should have the Mizbeach, we should have the heavenly fire.
Sunday will be a special for Bergen. Next Sunday will be a special for
Yes, in the basement, in the Shalim. Yeah, you're good, you're good.
לקראת המזון,
You
לקראת
going?
המזון.
We're all going.
Will there be
You're gonna be
here?
fabricated then.
Will it
It'll
be
be a,
here?
it'll be a whole day, all day.
He's saying it'll be in the
No,
base
but,
of
but if it's not there, will it be here?
No, so unfortunately, if it's not
Tisha
there,
B'Av.
we're gonna it's Tisha B'Av.
I know that it's Tisha B'Av.
Like you
I'm
said,
saying-
Morocco,
no,
Shbab.
I'm saying you give like a shear or
No,
something.
no, we don't celebrate Tisha B'Av. If the Abisha doesn't like it, like the Rosh
There's a lot of
said,
places
let him
they
take
give
it away
sh-
from
they
us.
give shiur.
I know they
Yeah.
celebrate.
No, this year
a little too much.
Be'ezrat Hashem, yeah. Because
No,
the
they
Mashiach gonna
celebrate
come
a little
before.
too much. We don't celebrate Tisha B'Av.
It's not
This year
it's not
Be'ezrat Hashem
celebration.
can, no?
We don't give any good shiurim.
No,
Nothing good on
like
Tisha B'Av.
explanations of
No
people's-
explanation.
למה לא?
Good.
למה?
משיח יבוא לפני, מה לא נעשה שיעור?
כן. משיח
בטח שעושים.
מגיע, נעשה
בטח
שיעור.
שעושים.
משיח,
עושים שיעור ועושים מסיבה גם.
כן.
Sure. משיח gonna come before.
Listen to
It's a
music.
party.
Yeah, we don't.
ככה צריכים לחיות.
Tisha B'Av is Yud B'Av.
Mashiach has to come.
So,
If he wants
Rabbi?
there to be a shir, Mashiach has to
Rabbi,
come.
so when the Mashiach comes, Tisha B'Av will be Bo Bayom, on Shabbos.
Yes,
Yeah.
probably,
We
you're
won't
right.
have to push it off.
Exactly.
Right.
Yom Tov will be a Shabbos. It's a good
Yeah.
point. It's a very good point.